It's going to be a long project, potentially 3 to 4 months, depending on the complexity of your site. And there's going to be a large amount of upfront analysis and planning that goes into that project in order to determine really how complex your site is and what needs to be migrated and how it needs to be migrated. So you can expect just the upfront planning and analysis to take roughly 25% of the time. And then once you have that, everything else starts to fall into place. Depending on where you're hosting, it could take up to 5% for hosting changes and DevOps changes. Drupal 9 does come with new system and server requirements, so that could be a significant change. Data migration, you should expect to take roughly 20%, depending on how much data and how complex that data is. For business logic or custom logic, if you have a significant amount of that, you should expect roughly 20% as well for project time. And then to redo your theme and your presentation should roughly take 30%. And this is kind of expecting that you're not totally overhauling everything. It's certainly a D7 to a D9 or D7 to D9 migration is a good time to really evaluate and analyze if you want to address any of the pain points you have with D7. So D9 may address a lot of them to begin with, but you should also be evaluating if you want to change how you're working with Drupal and if D9 can do it better in a new way. So once you do that, you'll know if you're really just doing a migration of content to the site and you're rebuilding the theme, or if you're kind of doing migration of the content, but you're also changing the content authoring flow or the content authoring process significantly. And that'll impact the time frame. So over the course of this project, or over the course of doing migration from D7 to D9, there's a couple of roadblocks that you should be prepared for, and a couple of difficult areas to navigate that are just, they're good to know beforehand. The first one is that content migration is never straightforward. There's going to be errors, there's going to be issues, there's going to be a bit of pain working through your content mapping, especially if you're going from a D7 site that is not a component-based design to a D9 site that is component-based. That typically introduces a lot of pain points around content mapping and content migration. You should also expect at least one content freeze. So once your migrations are running smoothly for your content, your development team will say, all right, after this date, no more changes to your site. You're in a content freeze until the new site goes live. And that's totally expected. Depending on the complexity of your content, there might be multiple dates where they say, all right, you can't update this content after this date, but you can continue updating your other 3 types of content. And then they'll give you other dates for the future piece of content. Hosting as well. So if you're not hosting on Acquia or Pantheon or another Drupal hosting provider, you may run into some challenges. So Drupal 7 supports many versions of PHP that Drupal 9 does not. For Drupal 9, you'll have to be running PHP 7. And if you're not running on Acquia or Pantheon or another hosting provider that does Drupal specifically, you may have some problems upgrading your PHP version, or you might have to spin up a new instance in AWS, Google Cloud Platform, wherever your hosting provider is. And that could take some time to figure out. Custom code rewrites are also probably going to be a significant roadblock. Functionally, there's not much different in Drupal 9, but from a technical standpoint, Drupal 9 is a completely new system for developers. So a lot of your custom code may not come over cleanly or easily. But the community has done a lot of work through Drupal Rector and various other tools to make the process of moving custom code easier. And Acquia also has a program called Acquia Migrate Accelerate. So if you're an Acquia customer, they have a whole set of tooling and a whole suite of services available in their Drupal cloud to make a migration from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9 much easier, including spinning up a whole new Acquia environment where you can automatically migrate content into it. And the final question is, once you're on D9, can your current team support D7? And the answer is, if you're working with an agency like Avionos, probably. So here at Avionos, we have experience working with D7, D8, and D9, both building out brand new sites in those various platforms, as well as supporting them over the long run through Avionos Operate. For your internal resources, it's going to be highly dependent on their background. So D9 is technically very different from D7, like to the point where they don't even look like the same code base. Depending on your resources background, it could be a real challenge for them. I've seen multiple experienced Drupal 7 developers have a really steep learning curve picking up Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 just due to the technical differences. So internal resources would likely benefit from working alongside experienced resources who are used to working in the new ways, or from getting some formal training through Acquia or another provider.